see that December we have $5 million in the bank. That's what we currently have as far as December. Where in November we had 10 million. So we decreased cash $5 million in the month. Patient AR has remained consistent between this month and last month, and has decreased from a year ago, from June of the past year. As far as the property, plant and equipment, $4 million based on nurse call system, different things that we have put in place here. Our accounts payable has increased since June, $2 million. You'll notice there is subsidy income of minus $3 million, but that is a timing difference with the city. That's pretty much the big highlights on the balance sheet. And if you want me, I'll go over the cash flow statement also. And this is probably the most important financial statement in here is the cash flow, because that's cash is king. So you can tell that since this in year 25, we have decreased cash of $8 million. We're down to the $5,445,000, which is on the balance sheet. You'll see it on the balance sheet. And that's and this tells just different areas of where the cash went.
Any specific comments about where the cash went to?
No, you just tell that the accrued liabilities went up. There's no real, there's just timing difference on the city. So.
Okay. Where would you like to see us at with regard to cash in the bank and having, in a perfect world, where would you like to see that number?
In a perfect world, I'd have about 90 days of cash. How much cash would that be? I was afraid you would ask that. I will just follow up and give you a more accurate, because I'd be just off the top of my head. So.
Or another way of asking, how many days of cash do we have now?
Cash on hand, we have $5 million. So we don't have many days of cash.
Okay. Anything further on their financial statements? Okay, great. Seeing no more comments, I will ask for an approval, a motion to approve the financial statements for December 2024. Second, motion passes. Thank you for the work, and look forward to hearing more on these. Revenue cycle, Dr. Blackledge. Oops.
Apologies, I was very quickly for revenue cycle. Good afternoon again. As it relates to cash, year-to-date cash through December, most recent 2 months, November and December pictured here, we're slightly below our cash target. However, year-to-date, when we look at the year, we don't look at one period in time or 1 month in time, we look at the whole year. We were still averaging 101.4% above target, so that was good performance across the continuum, that piece. If I move to unbilled, as many of those in the room are aware, as we went live with Cerner mid-December, and we hit like 7.16 days, and the teams have continued to focus on these unbilled days, but that's a result of the go live with Cerner. We can move forward. Denials management. We had some insurance eligibility issues in the month of December that challenged us as it relates to our denials inventory. again, to see the denials inventory is just denied. It does not mean that it will not be paid. It takes us longer. And was there another? Well, I think that would be it then from the revenue cycle. But Standard and probably have some team members here, but I know we're short on time right now. Thank you.
And you would attribute, the delay in some of this due to your team focus on the Cerner implementation that just happened?
Absolutely.
Is that correct? So going forward, we'll see these numbers come back down.
So I don't know if you recall, but probably, I can't remember, several months ago, we talked about the Cerner implementation and what that looks like over a period of time. And once you go live, you have a lot of mapping and a lot of additional work that must occur, and all departments are working different. So we have to ensure charges are there. So we look at every bill. So January and February will still be impacted by the Cerner go live because it's the recovery period, which that period is about 90 days on the recovery period.
When do you think you'll be quote unquote fully implemented?
We're implementing
So
recovery. So
good.
we're looking at towards the end of March, April for recovery. Yeah. And we're seeing some of the incline now coming back up, but that trajectory is for about a 90-day period.
Excellent. Good. All right. Anything else, Dr. Nettles? Okay, great. Okay. That concludes our Finance Committee meeting, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
Very much.
Welcome, everybody, to the February 27 meeting, the Hospital Authority Board. And give the members an opportunity to state if there's any potential conflicts or their belief that they can be unbiased and able to participate, or that they elect to recuse themselves from any matter. Okay, thank you. No comments. Mr. Lesser, could I call on you to read the mission statement, please?
To improve the health and wellness of Nashville by providing equitable access to coordinated patient-centered care, supporting tomorrow's caregivers, and translating science into clinical practice.
Thank you, sir. Next will be public comment. We have a lot of folks and a big agenda. Just as a reminder, each person is limited to 3 minutes of public comment and a total limit of 20 minutes for public comment. But before we start, at the request of Dr. Webb, I would like to read a letter that he sent to all of the board members yesterday evening. Dated February 26, 2025. Dear Hospital Authority Board members, I'm writing to formally notify you of my decision not to seek renewal of my employment agreement as Chief Executive Officer of Nashville General Hospital. After careful consideration, I have determined that it's in the best interest of all parties involved to allow the organization to move forward under new leadership. My departure date will be effective as of March 14, 2025. I trust that my compensation and other obligations as outlined in my agreement will be fully honored as we navigate this transition. Serving this hospital has truly been a pleasure, and I extend my highest compliments to the team of employees who have worked with me over my tenure. To extend health care to the Nashville-Davidson County community. The mission to improve the health and wellness of Nashville by providing equitable access to coordinated patient-centered care, supporting tomorrow's caregivers, and translating science into clinical practice has been executed to its fullest. I'm especially proud of the team's execution of transformational, innovative interventions such as the food pharmacy, the No Wait Emergency Department, Hope Meds, Congregational Health and Education Network, Community Care Team, all of which has contributed to extraordinary outcomes such as achieving a positive hospital operating margin in budget fiscal 23-24 for the first time, achieving an A in quality ratings from the Leapfrog Group, state, national, and international recognition for innovative initiatives in patient care. The achievements we have made are a testament to the hard work and dedication of the entire team, and I am proud of all of them for their group and individual contributions and sacrifices. The opportunity to serve this community has been incredibly rewarding. I'm grateful for the support and collaboration of the hospital employees, the community, and the board. Thank you once again for the opportunity to lead Nashville General Hospital. I wish you all the best with continued success. Warm regards, Joseph Webb, CEO. Thank you, Dr. Webb. Do we have public comment?
Several did not indicate what they wanted to speak on. Derek suggested you ask them before you call on them. There's one on Courtney.
Okay. Thank you for signing in. Some of you did not indicate which item you wanted to discuss, so I'll ask you to state that before you start your comments. I'm going to start with Davy Tucker.
Thank you, Chair. The choices that were offered, I drew a line because I'm in the middle of both of those. Will that work?
Okay.
Thank you. I am Davy
He's
Tucker.
referring to contract renewal or
Yes, sir.
not. Thank you.
My name is Davy Tucker. I'm the Executive Director of the Metro Human Relations Commission, a lifelong Nashvilleian, and one of 3 siblings that was born here in this hospital. First thing, I want to thank Dr. Webb for his decade of service, often under great difficulty, and I wish you much peace and significance in your future. I also would like to thank you as board members for the volunteering of your time and expertise to provide the governance and guidance for this critical institution. But I also would like to say going forward, I would hope that all stakeholders would acknowledge 2 things. One being the historical decisions that were made or made that I believe contribute to where this organization finds itself today. If the past administrations would have robustly been advocates for this institution, I do not believe that we would be in this situation today. It is my hope that going forward, that if we acknowledge it, I think we can fix it. Also, the unique relationship that this hospital has with Meharry Medical College, which is a national treasure and very important to this community. I am excited and encouraged by Mayor O'Connell's statements about his commitment to solidifying, as he says, a place where one can receive quality health care for generations to come. Again, not acknowledging what has happened in the past, I believe will portend the future going forward. This is a critical institution that serves a group of people that are often overlooked and not thought of as deserving much. The relationship that this institution has, not only with this community, but with this city and with Nashville General Hospital, puts us in a unique position to do something radically different that can be an impact not only on this city, but the South and even this nation. I wish you great judgment in the future that lies ahead of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Next, I'll call on Gordon Jones.
Thank you. I too would like to express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Webb and his administration for the service they've given to this city through Nashville General Hospital. Dr. Webb, I wish you God's richest blessing in your new endeavors. I have no public comment. I have 3 questions that I would like to ask, and I don't know how they will be addressed, but I hope they'll be given some consideration. In light of what's happening, there is public consensus of the need for a new hospital. First question is, what is the comprehensive vision of this board for this new hospital? Physical, design, location consideration, services offered, integration with existing healthcare infrastructure, and the former speaker made reference to one of them, i.e. the relationship with Meharry Medical College. Again, what is the comprehensive vision of this board? We've heard a number of those visions, and I don't think, unless the board gives some oversight to that, it's really doesn't make sense to us as residents and citizens. So what is the second question is, said that the board or the new hospital will be a safety net hospital. Well, I don't know if I'm the only one, but there's no specific definition for a safety net. Therefore, my question is, what's the board's definition of a safety net hospital, and what specific elements will be represented in the Nashville General New Hospital? Because there are no one definition for that. So what is your definition, and what would that look like? And the third question is, what implementation steps will the board convey to the public from moving the hospital from concept to reality, including funding, timeline projections, etc.? Those are my questions. I don't know how they'll be answered.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Appropriate questions. Next, I'll call on Joyce Vaughn.
Good afternoon. My name is Joyce Vaughn. I want to thank the board for the opportunity to speak today. I want to acknowledge that I have a business relationship with Ms. Smith. Nashville General Hospital is a necessary institution to the entire Nashville, Davidson County community. My late husband was born at the old General Hospital on Rolling Mill Hill. My father worked for the city of Nashville and then retired from Metro. One day he was on a job site and was stung by a wasp. He had a severe allergic reaction. Being a Metro employee, he was rushed to General. I believe the emergency room doctor saved his life. Nashville General has been important to my family. Channel 5 News has investigated the many complaints about the current leadership. One issue concerns the rocky relationship between General and Meharry. A clip was shown showing the board being told the relationship was good, but the agreement between the institutions had previously expired. The board was lied to. That alone should be reason enough to not renew the CEO's contract. This institution needs good leadership. I do think the current leadership is what the community, I do not think the current leadership is what the community needs, and I urge the board to not renew the CEO's contract. I wrote that before I heard the news that Dr. Webb was resigning. So I've added this. Dr. Webb has tendered his resignation to be effective March the 14th. I still think the board needs to vote on not renewing his contract because he could rescind his resignation. In addition, I request the board review all management positions to see which ones are necessary. Nashville General is top-heavy, and it is too important of an institution to be mismanaged. Thank you.
I'm Vernon Rose. Thank you for the time to speak. I'm actually speaking today on behalf of three parties. The first being employees who've been afraid to speak, the board chair of the foundation who could not be present today, and myself. We understand Dr. Webb's resignation is before this board, but I am still here to speak. And further, we ask that the remarks and the documents, which I'll hand out in a second because I couldn't do both, are part of this record of this meeting in full and unamended. I'm going to pause on that one because it's been amended before and there's documentation to that effect. I want to address the concerns of the employees. Many employees have chosen silence after years of witnessing repercussions for those who did speak. It is their love for this hospital and patients which provides them with inspiration and hope for new leadership. And there is a letter from the employees in this packet that they sent to me. The foundation board chair, Woods Welborn, for the past 8+ years, and although absent today, sends his remarks and handouts providing documentation, which is also in this packet. He is sharing that the foundation has had a failed collaboration with Dr. Webb and executive leadership, pending from Dr. Webb's insistence that the Foundation Neighborhood Health Nurse Program be canceled soon after Dr. Webb's arrival, to years of wrangling over the efficacy of the internal food pharmacy, to Dr. Webb's insistence that the Foundation Outreach Program be canceled, plus other examples that are in the handout. The chair of the Foundation holds hope for a new partner where these and other programs may serve those in need. And lastly, I speak for myself. In my former capacity of the Foundation as executive director for 7+ years and member of the executive leadership for 5+ years, I have experienced and seen bullying, gaslighting, and outright disregard for essential decency. With the change in top leadership, I firmly hope that the remaining executive team members understand that this behavior stops today. I've been asked if I would recommend this hospital, and I would hope to do that soon because leadership like Veronica Elders, Deanne Bullock, Faye Hornadell, among countless others, have built excellent healthcare teams. We ask for your support in this matter, and please accept these remarks and documents and vote today because you'll have to vote to include both as unamended in the February 27th, 2025 meetings. Thank you for your time and your diligence on behalf of our community. And I wouldn't mind help if I can ask somebody to help me pass these out. Sharon, do you mind? Sorry to make you do that, but I'll go one side, you'll do the other. And I'm done. Thank you, Dr. Martin.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Next, I would call on Trista Bozeman.
Good afternoon or good evening, board. To the Nashville General Hospital Board, and I'm going to try to speak really quickly. I am writing to express my deep concern over the continued lack of support for Nashville General Hospital and the ongoing effort to undermine the leadership of Dr. Webb and his team. Despite the hospital's remarkable progress achieved without fully funding them and without adequate subsidies, there seems to still be deliberate effort to diminish his leadership in the institution's success. This city has a troubling pattern. When Black leaders demonstrate excellence, deliver measurable results, and uplift institutions, they are targeted and discredited. Dr. Webb arrived with a bold vision over a decade ago, and despite systematic gatekeeping and relentless challenges, he has executed that vision with integrity. Under the leadership, NGH has transformed from a neglected city hospital to a nationally recognized institution. Yet, instead of receiving full support, it continues to be faced with opposition from city leadership and board leadership. Meanwhile, entities with documented financial mismanagement are protected and portrayed as blameless. Why are institutions serving Black and brown communities led by strong Black leadership consistently undervalued and attacked? This trend is not new. We have seen similar tactics used against leaders like Dr. Reginald Coopwood, a former CEO of this hospital, Dr. Sean Joseph, the former school board superintendent. Dr. Webb now faces the same resistance. The media also plays a role in this injustice. Instead of highlighting Nashville General's progress, reporters selectively use sound bites to undermine Dr. Webb while ignoring the true story. There was little coverage of Mayor Begin and her team when his involvement attempted to shut down Nashville General, keeping the public in the dark. No one reported on how a former mayor worked behind the scenes to dismantle Bordeaux long-term care, displacing vulnerable residents and leaving many in fear and despair. And I'm going to skip. We see what's happening. The backdoor deals, the hidden agendas, the political maneuvering. This is not leadership. This is sabotage. And the people of Nashville deserve better.
Thank you, Ms. Bozeman. Next, I would recognize Aaron Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Erin Evans. I'm on the Metro Council representing District 12, and I'm also chair of the Public Health and Safety Committee. And I'm here this afternoon because I have two issues that I'd really like to see propelled forward as a result of some of the changes, but also our discussion related to our upcoming budget. So the first one is I have it's now former nurse from Metro General who spent her winter months doing clothing drives specific for patients who were discharged from the hospital where they were not coming in with clothing. Clothing had to be cut off. And in the end, if the hospital did not have clothing available, they were discharged using paper scrubs in the middle of winter. That is obviously a huge concern. I would like to see that addressed. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Metro-funded solution, but I do feel like leverage the council to be able to get the word out related to some of these issues, in particular with our unhoused community. Because in the end, you know, that particular nurse, we shouldn't rely on good, kind-hearted people to do that kind of outreach. We should be leading that charge, I think, across the authority and also the Metro Council. So that was one issue. The other thing that I wanted to bring forward is I spoke with a doctor who brought some concerns to me specific to equipment operations in the emergency room, specific to treating the unhoused community related to hypothermia. Some of the equipment he relayed was not working or it was out of service. And so ultimately, when we get to the budget, I'm one vote on the budget. But those are the kinds of questions that I'll be asking about when we get to our budget presentation for the hospital, is what equipment is not working, what needs to be repaired, replaced, et cetera. And so in particular, I was really happy to see kind of the contract discussion related to ER equipment, because we also have to consider the fact that this is not happening kind of in isolation. You know, these folks that are coming, being discharged, also end up going to our Metro overflow shelter. They have some similar challenges related to things like clothing. When I was there volunteering for the overflow shelter, also saw some folks in paper scrubs. So those are the kinds of issues that I think are low-hanging fruit that we can collaborate on and tackle together. So I just wanted to make sure everybody had that information, because it'll be questions I'll be asking about as we move forward with the budget. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. I believe we have time probably for two more speakers. I see Nicole and Keith Mason. If you would care to collaborate as one, then we can have all the speakers who are on the list speak. So I would call on Nicole Mason next. Okay. All right. Then next we have William Courtney Gullum.
Good afternoon. I'm actually reading a letter that was provided by our former state senator, Miss Brenda Gilmore, as she wished to convey this to the committee this afternoon. It states, all board directors, Nashville General Hospital Authority Board, Nashville General Hospital Board. The subject here is to support the continued tenure of Dr. Joseph Webb as Nashville's General Hospital CEO. She did realize that he has placed his resignation, but she still wished to support him. So she asked that I continue to read this. I'm writing to express my strong support for the continued leadership of Dr. Webb as CEO of Nashville General Hospital. Under Webb's leadership, Nashville General Hospital has achieved significant progress in key areas, efforts to improve patient outcomes, enhance the patient experience. Nashville General Hospital has also earned multiple accreditations from its evidence-based measures and practices, including Joint Commission's Gold Seal of Approval accommodations. And the hospital has expanded healthcare services and launched initiatives to attract new commercially insured patients. Dr. Webb's achievements ensure that every patient, regardless of their ability to pay, receives high-quality care at Nashville General Hospital. Additionally, Dr. Webb and his leadership have shown great ability to navigate challenges, foster innovation, and prioritize patient-centered care, has been uplifting and instrumental in our hospital's continued growth and success. Dr. Webb has been a forward thinker and innovator regarding and ensuring positive health results for all Nashville communities, as he has many times stated that we don't have an access of issues with healthcare. We have a healthcare literacy and care coordination problem that traditional healthcare is not incentivized to solve. Here in Nashville, Dr. Webb has put together a new hub and spoken approach focusing on a community-based strategy, which has spread through Nashville and delivered healthcare and health sustainability to Nashville. Removing Dr. Webb at a critical time could jeopardize the stability and the progress that he and we have made. We are facing a transformative time in Nashville. Medicine and delivery and the orchestrator who has had a significant hand in advancing and handing fought progress needs to continue in the leadership for the good of the hospital and Nashville residents. Dr. Webb is in the best position to lead Nashville General Hospital, and as it moves to a new hospital structure, I would be remiss if I do not touch upon the elephant in the room, while differences in opinion with key partners are inevitable in any complex healthcare environment, I believe that these challenges should be addressed through constructive dialogue and a broader cooperation among all participants, including the Metro government, rather than the leadership changes. Success is not achieved by one person or even two. All parties involved here, including the board leadership, city leadership, Meharry, and the hospital must work together in this collaborative and avoid battling in front of the media. The stakes are too high and the time is too critical. In my understanding that both parties have demonstrated a willingness to collaborate, find common ground, and work towards solutions that ultimately benefit the hospital, the college, and its patients, as well as the community.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore.
All right. Thank you very much. And I do
thank you, Mr.
support
Gilmore,
all the work that he has
for
done.
the letter.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate all the public comments today. Next item on the agenda is the minutes from the January meeting that have been circulated. Do I hear any additions or corrections?
Mr. Chair, there is on page 4 of the minutes, our previous minutes, the second medical staff reappointment. There seems to be a typographical error, and just want to make sure that the minutes accurately reflect. I don't know if it's just mine, but I think there isn't a name under that, and so if we could correct that, Ms. Lester, do you see where I am on page 4?
Page 4 of the packet.
On page 4 of our previous minutes from January 30th, there's a section under the medical staff report where we voted on reappointments for the medical staff. I'm sorry.
The 8 people,
Could it be on page 6 by chance?
Page 6 of the packet.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Correct.
Oh, you're talking about the second one down there with all the.
Do you see the
marks?
gibberish where there's
Yes,
not anyone's
that's the way
name?
it was presented to me.
I'm sorry.
I did not know if that was.
Okay.
Where, but I will find out.
I assume there's a gastroenterologist whose name should be there, and so that our minutes are accurate, I'd ask that we
I will ask
correct
for
that.
the correction.
And I recall, voting on those and having names. So for the accuracy of the minutes, I'd ask that we replace that typographical with the actual provider's name. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other additions or corrections? And I would entertain a motion for approval with that correction.
so moved.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Under old business, we'll start with a PSA update. Mr. Escobar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To remind the board, I was asked by the chair to serve as an observer and to report directly to the board about the meetings between Meharry Medical College and the hospital towards entering into a written physician services and agreement, a PSA, as we've been calling it. And so I did attend that meeting. There was approximately 3 weeks ago, senior leadership from Meharry Medical College, in particular the provost, Dr. Southpaw, attended on behalf of Meharry. The executive leadership team of the hospital attended. This was basically an initial meeting after what seemed to be a long pause from any substantive discussions about a resolution of the differences to be able to sign a PSA. Each side in the meeting, Dr. Webb for the hospital and Dr. Southpaw for Meharry, reiterated sort of the points at which the discussions had been left, what some key areas of negotiation needed to be, what the differences were in the parties. So a fair amount of the meeting was consisted in identifying those areas, substantive areas that needed resolution. A couple of items. I think there was some promise that there could be some resolution fairly quickly, those being a shorter time in which the hospital would hold the invoices from Meharry. In other words, the regular obligations that the hospital has to pay Meharry. Meharry asked that they be paid more quickly. Dr. Webb and the hospital indicated that was acceptable and we could work on that. A second point was looking at the compensation of Meharry providers. In some instances, they are below what they ought to be, and so there was some consensus in that meeting that is an issue that can be fixed. There are several questions that are larger questions that still need to be addressed. The meeting was left with both sides indicating that between that meeting and the next meeting, which is scheduled for 2 weeks from now, or approximately 2 weeks from now, that relevant subject matter experts, people within the executive teams that are responsible for those areas, are going to make progress and talk about them. Dr. Webb told me earlier this week and sent me an email that he had sent to Meharry, which is a draft of a PSA. I would describe that as sort of a template for discussion. It doesn't really reflect any negotiation up to this point, is my reading of it, but that there is now kind of a template out there so that Meharry and the hospital can begin to fill that in as these negotiations move forward. So my overall report to the board is that there is a meeting, there are regular meetings scheduled. I am hopeful that there will be some progress on this. I think there are some issues that have been long-standing that need to be resolved, and I will continue to report to the board, but that those meetings are happening, and we hope that progress can be made fairly quickly.
Do we need some type of temporary extension of the previous PSA, or we'll just go without one until we get this negotiation done?
That is a good question. I see my role as one of observer and not to weigh in as what that is. I think that is a question for the board. It's a question for executive leadership. I don't know. The current agreement, the most recent agreement, which expired 2 years ago, is exactly what you described, Dr. Miller, was an extension for a year to enable the parties to negotiate the differences that they had, and that wasn't able to be done. I mean, I think we could do that again. I would leave it to the executive leadership to advise the board as to whether that is possible, and if so, what the terms would be, and if those terms are acceptable. That's a good question that you raise.
I think one of the things that concerns me with not having a decision in place specifically would be related to the actual financial accrual of, let's say, obligation that is outstanding. So when you look at Meharry's, I think, Excel spreadsheet, it states that there was a, let's say we are showing a negotiated rate, as my understanding, based on that prior PSA comparative to the Meharry rate, which is more of a market rate. So you're getting this $6.1 million disparity. And one of the things that I talked about with the auditors is how do we show that if that indeed is either a Meharry issue or it's a Nashville General Hospital issue. So it's not just, hey, let's, keep going down the same trail and hope it works out. I think that there's a real financial question that exists with regard to the actual billable rate that just continues at over $200,000, I believe, a month. So I think that is something we need to talk about quickly and figure out which direction we're going to go.
Thank you, Mr. Esquivel. I appreciate your involvement with this, and I know everybody's glad to hear that parties are getting together regularly, and we will have a chance to discuss this more later in the meeting. We'll move on to the conflict of interest policy that's been distributed in the packet. Ms. Lewis?
Good afternoon. My name is Christy Lewis, Chief Compliance Officer for Nashville General Hospital, and I will be discussing with you the conflict of interest policy and the disclosure. A conflict of interest occurs when an individual has a professional, a personal, or a financial interest that could or does interfere with his or her ability to represent the best interest of an organization. As board members, you have pledged yourselves to have transparency and ethics in your decisions and to not allow those personal, professional, or financial obligations that you may have to interfere with serving the best interest of this organization. Our conflict of interest policy outlines that we need to have a disclosure statements that are going to be provided. Those have been provided to you, and I ask that you please either complete them by the close of business today, or that you can submit them. I will keep them confidentially, and they will not be used they must be full disclosure, and we ask that we use them, that you complete them. The policy also states that employees, business partners, as well as vendors and board members will use disclosure statements on an annual basis and immediately should a conflict of interest arise. If a conflict of interest does arise for a board member, we ask that that be announced and that be disclosed, that he or she recuse himself from any of the proceedings that pertain to what is a conflict of interest. Again, there is a policy that is noted in your packets, and there should be a disclosure statement that will be used for this meeting going forward, and it will be repeated again at July for the new year, the fiscal year, and going forward. Are there any comments or questions?
Ms. Lewis, I see that we've had a conflict of interest policy maybe since 2017.
That's correct. There was one. It originated in 2017. There was one that was published again in 22, and there was supposed to be a renewal in February of 2024. I came at the end of June of 2024, and am making sure that this conflict of interest has been properly submitted for approval.
And could you review with us what the substantive changes are from the 2024 policy?
Yes, sir. This is actually an overhaul of that policy. But some of the more substantive things that have been included in this policy are dealing with the additional definitions that have been placed in here, dealing with covered interest, compensation, direct interest, excess benefit transaction, indirect interest, interested party, person, related party. Also, there is a statement in here that is also expressing that conflicts of interest and disclosures will be required for new hires upon hire, as well as on an annual basis for all of the hospital authority. That will also be true for the board members as well on an annual basis and immediately as a conflict of interest does arrive. There is also a section on ethical behavior. This is an entirely new section where it talks about ethical behavior and disclosure. It talks about the procurement of goods, services, and construction, the use of information, falsification of authority documents, use of property. It also includes gifts, entertainment, and favors, where it talks about the types of gifts and entertainments or favors, less than $50 per occurrence, less than $50 for one individual or an organization within a fiscal year, less than $250 total for all gifts, entertainments, and favors within that fiscal year. If there's anything that exceeds that, then that must be reported. Finally, in the duty to disclosure, it outlines the procedure for a hearing process for if you are an employee or a volunteer. If you are a hospital board, then you will follow the hospital bylaws that are outlined for that process as well. And finally, it has for reporting on that you can report that, of course, to your immediate supervisor and also to the compliance hotline, which is 341-4555, as well as using the email address for the compliance hotline, speakupnow@nashvilleha.org. So it's a comprehensive change. It is an overhaul of the previous conflict of interest.
Are there similar policies within other metro boards?
Yes, there are. And this one is used from the airport board as a template that was used for the inclusion. So yes, there are other boards that use this type of language in their conflict of interest policy.
One other question. Under the section ethical behavior, there's reference to a code of conduct.
Yes, that code of conduct applies to the Nashville General Hospital. That is standard code of conduct that all employees and vendors and volunteers are required to follow.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Smith?
Yes, thank you. This has been on my personal agenda for about, almost 2 years now, so I appreciate you getting this done. I know that we've tried to get to Metro Legal as well, and so Derek, I know you wanted to kind of review the final act of this, but one thing I think is also helpful is to have this built into our procurement going forward, so any vendors and contracts we're signing would also be subject to these conflict of interest policies, and so therefore, again, doesn't mean you can't do business, you just need to disclose it, and we need to make sure that that makes sense for Nashville General from a liability perspective, and that the fairness to be able to participate is rampant as people have these opportunities. So Derek Smith with Metro Legal, do you have any quick comments? And I appreciate your time and work on this as well.
Yeah, let me just share, Ms. Lewis has been diligently working on this probably better than a month now. This new policy integrates, there's a specific state law provision that's applicable just to the board members, not to the other hospital employees, that deals specifically on topics of direct and indirect interest. We're legal advisors, should you have questions in that regard, to try to give our belief and opinion as to, statutory interpretation as you make such disclosures. I will share, Ms. Lewis has put this together, integrating that along with a model from another organization. We have not, in the legal department, yet completed our review to make sure what the hospital authority may have included in there is necessarily applicable to you. So I say that with the caveat that if you adopt this, we may have some adjustments that we would recommend after and I shared with Ms. Lewis about a week ago when I got the draft that I have so much on my plate, I likely wouldn't be able to complete that review before tonight. Nevertheless, it is an effort too, as you've seen. It integrates both board disclosures and the other hospital employees, but there could be some tweaks along the lines that differentiate when appropriate between the board and the other hospital employees. So just letting you know, there could be something more to come.
May I ask if the disclosure form that's passed out, is this a new form as well? Is there changes to that as well?
Yes, sir. That is a new form. There have been removal of some questions that were overstepping, if you will, and so those have been removed from this form, and so it is a new form as well.
All right, I would like to table this to the next meeting, giving the legal department an opportunity to review it and make any recommendations for change. And thank you very much for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
We're now into department reports. First, medical staff report. Dr. Katz.
Good evening. Beginning with the medical staff report. It's been a busy month for us. The Wellness Committee has convened. We've also convened the Ethics Committee. But perhaps the most noteworthy is the Bylaws Committee, since we last spoke, and has met again and is working our way through. We are working our way through the bylaws. I want to say again, and forgive the redundancy, this represents a collaborative effort. I bring with me colleagues and peers from the Meharry medical side. There is representation of both entities and the goal of representing or creating a document that serves all entities in the bylaws. The engagement survey is on track and moving forward with a projected date of May. And finally, peer reviews are occurring regularly and responsibly in a way that we hadn't quite realized previously. I will stop there. Is there anything specific that I can speak to for the board?
Any questions for Dr. Katz? Okay, Thank you
so
for
much.
your report. And Dr. Miller, the credentials report.
The Medical Executive Committee met last week, and Dr. Nazur, the chair of the Medical Executive Committee, has recommended 4 faculty members. Ryan Walsh in emergency medicine as an initial appointment, and then reappointments for Ronald Baker in orthopedic surgery, and Adair Bari, internal medicine, nephrology, and Calvin Smith in general internal medicine. There are some brief bios on page 19 if anybody wants more information. Recommend approval.
All right. I would entertain a motion for approval. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, please.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Dr. Miller. Next, marketing report. Kathy Poole.
Good afternoon, everyone. I did not make the deadline to get things in your packet. I apologize. I did pass out a report for Q2 of FY25. It includes the various activities that we had going on within the hospital, from our internal relations, government relations, community relations, press releases, as well as media hits that occurred during that 3-month period. I also included an update for the Metro Healthcare Incentive Program. So you could see the last 3.5 years, the increase of unique patients. In 2022, we were at 1,575, and in 2024, we had jumped to 1,854. For 2025 year-to-date, this goes through about the middle of December. Due to the Cerner conversion, we're still working through an easy way for us to pull some of that data. So we were right at around 1,200, which is tracking ahead of schedule. And that has a lot to do with the expansion into Metro Center and Bordeaux, offering those locations. Also, I wanted to add the reputation management. This is a program we use for our providers, so some of the doctors around the room. When a patient comes to see you within 48 hours, you're going to get a text message that's going to say, please rate your provider. And so we ask them just a really quick, how do you rate them? That information actually goes to our patient experience team as well. The physicians get them as well, so that they kind of know where they stand. Even if at the bottom of the page, it does show, it's kind of high little competition here, who are the highest performing providers, always maintaining like a 5.0. But even the lowest, their still all-time scores are pretty high. So right now, our public rating is at a 4.42 for all the providers. The way we split it out is each provider has their own Google My Business page, and then the reviews, 50% of them go to their personal page, the other 50% go to our Nashville Healthcare Center or Nashville General Hospital page, depending on which entity they are serving. And that just boosts the reviews on all of the different accounts, so that when people search, it increases their page presence online. And then if you turn to the back, these are just some Q3 events. Janet had sent out in early January a listing of things we had in January and February. I'm really excited to announce that the Tennessee Center for Performance Excellence, that's the local state Baldrige program that we've been a part of for the last 10 years. Kathy Phillips, who retired last year, was actually awarded their Katie Rawls Champion of Excellence Award. So we were very excited for her, and a couple of members of the team, Melanie, Diana, Sherry, and a few others from Performance Excellence were able to be there and celebrate with her. And then we also have other community events, Metro events, and Doctor's Day coming up at the end of the month. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Kathy, for your report.
Okay. Thank you.
Foundation report, Kate Haygood.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have been working in nonprofit for a very long time. And one of the things that's very important in nonprofit is being able to share stories and tell stories about what we do, about our patients, and share that with the community. I would like to speak to 3 stories today. The first one, and these are all in your packet, the first one is a gentleman named Kent Snyder. He passed away on December 6th, 2024, due to complications of diabetes. We had the Nourish the Heart campaign through Channel 5, and his family saw that campaign and called us and asked us, how do we support the food pharmacy? And the reason was, Mr. Snyder was not our patient. But his family realized if he had had access to the food pharmacy and those services that we provide, that he would still be alive today. I found this very, very touching, and I also believe that these are the stories that are out there about us, and people see us. There's a lot of people that know that this food pharmacy is a very necessary thing. But I just thought that I would share that story because he's not a patient. And his family will continue to give to the foundation. The next story I'd like to tell has to do with women's health. We received a $5,000 grant to create a centering program, a pregnancy centering program. This program is designed to address significant maternal health disparities, particularly those affecting women of color, by offering a group-based, patient-centered approach to prenatal care. The program is transformative, and it addresses critical gaps in maternal care and empowers women in our community. And we are so grateful to First Horizon for helping us with that. The last story that I would like to share with you has to do with the tiniest of our patients. Lambda Iota Sigma has been supporting Margaret's Closet, and Margaret's Closet is a closet that is upstairs in the NICU where they have hats and diapers and bottles and pacifiers and you name it, they have it up there. We provide those things to these mothers that need them. Many, many times there are mothers that don't even have a crib to take the baby home to. Same thing with car seats. We also provide car seats. This organization, this is the 3rd time that they've actually given us money for Margaret's Closet. We have now started a Margaret's Closet Fund. So anyone that is interested in donating to that fund may do so. I really believe that these things that are happening are wonderful and good. And out in the community, people see that. They know it. And I just wanted to leave you guys with just a little bit of happy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Haygood? And I'd like to note that the foundation has asked for a representative from the board, and I've recommended to them Mr. Lesser, and he's agreed to be a part of the board.
Yes, he has, and we're very, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ms. Stinson, the quality report.
Hello again. I'm not Ms. Denson. Ms. Denson is out tending to a personal matter. I have the quality report in front of me, as do you all. I can speak to a couple of points, and if there are questions, I can bring those back to her. I want to point out that we're now greater than 365 days without a fall with injury and greater than 200 days without a healthcare acquired infection. We are seeing increased use of RL6, which is our incident reporting tool, most especially as it pertains to good catch and near miss events. We continue to grow in hand hygiene. We have not yet realized our goal of 95%. We are at 90%, and the same is true for barcode medication administration rate. The other metrics are in front of you. I'll pause there. Is there anything the team would like me to bring back to Ms. Denson?
I guess the only thing I would say is that, we now have 2 months of the barcode administration rate being in the red zone. What are we doing to correct that?
The planned response is closer collaboration with nursing and pharmacy to find opportunities for improvement. And I'll probably let Ms. Denson speak to that in greater detail when next you meet. Thank you. Oh, and I got some help.
So for barcode med administration, so for the last 2 months, we're at about 90%. We've been at 95 for the last 2 years. One of our concerns, optimization points is after the Cerner upgrade, the way they scan meds, the barcodes on the medications, it kind of changed. And so we're still optimizing that. We've really worked with IT and pharmacy, so we are hopeful that will get better as we continue to optimize the Cerner equipment. There was new labels, there was new scanning equipment, there were new almost everything. And so I think that 5% is a concern, but we are working to go back to greater than 95, which is the goal. Anything else? Any other questions?
Engagement surveys. Or Melanie. Yeah, thank you.
Aaron, would you mind pulling up the presentation? So as she's pulling up the presentation, I want to speak to engagement and alignment, which is why we have partnered with Press Ganey. So engagement is the emotional connection to the organization, how people feel about their work environment, and how committed employees are to the organization. Alignment is how well an employee understands and agrees with the organizational goals, to the degree to which the individual feels connected to leadership, and the degree to which the individual shares our mission and vision. We partner with Press Ganey so that they can provide us with national benchmarks. You could advance past the first slide. With national benchmarks and comparisons against their whole database of organizations. So the connection, why we talk about engagement and alignment between physician and employee engagement, there is a direct correlation to how patients respond to that on the HCAP surveys. So organizations in the top 10% of their employee engagement and physician engagement scores score 50 to 60 percentile points higher than organizations that are lower. You can advance here. You can see trends that the engagement scores have shifted from 2015 to 2021. And basically what they're saying is that this is not a standstill metric. If I am ranked at a 4.0 this year, 5 years from now, a 4.0 could be lower in the percentile rate. So this is something that just changes constantly. You can go to the next slide. So these are our engagement scores. In the pink, you will see our employee engagement, and in the blue, you see our physician engagement. You see a steady decline, but as we advance through these slides, you will see that this is a national trend and a steady decline everywhere. I'm going to try, there's a lot of slides, so I'm going to advance through these slides as quickly as possible. The blue line is national healthcare, and the pink line is Nashville General. As you can see, we're starting at a lower point, but you do see that there is a downward trend nationally. And what you're seeing is over the last 3 years, the 2022, 2023, and 2024, we are seeing more upward trend than what's seen nationally. We do have a long way to go. I want to acknowledge that for sure. But these are programs that we have to put in place and action plans that we have to do. Okay. The other thing I want to point out is with Press Ganey, what they're saying is everything we did prior to COVID has changed significantly. So they're even recommending that we disregard anything that was done prior to COVID and focus on COVID years going forward. So the culture of safety, as you can see, the national trend is very jagged. You see some of that movement in our trends as well. Again, we're at a lower starting point, but as you can see, some of the national trends are going downward where we're looking upward. And we talked about Baldrige. Kathy mentioned Baldrige. What we want to see always is an upward trend. And if we're measuring over a period of 3 years, I'm excited about going from a 3.71 to a 3.86 because I'm showing upward mobility. And if we keep that trajectory, we will catch up to what the national trends are. Your physician engagement, this we're measuring from 2017 to 2022, and we're at a disadvantage here because we have not done consistent surveys. You will see reflected in our scores that disappointment that we have from our physicians. And so we are pressing forward, as Dr. Katz mentioned, to go forward with the physician engagement to reestablish our baseline and see where we are so that we can affect what their current concerns are. Next slide, please. Again, focusing on the alignment is how well the leaders, how well people are feeling connected to our mission from our leaders. You see that there's a lot less gap between what the national trend is and what our trend is. We still have opportunities to move it upward for sure. Next slide. You do not have this in yours. This is our 3-year trend for our HCAP scores. I do have these printed out. But what you see is the national benchmark in yellow and the rate the hospital 0 to 10 and the recommend the hospital are the two areas that we really focus on over the last several years. When we talk about 4DX and the things that we say are our wildly important goals at Nashville General, getting these scores up is what is of utmost importance. Our patient experience is the most important thing that we have going on. So when a patient leaves this hospital, do they want to rank us a 9 or a 10, or would they recommend this hospital in the future to other people? Those are important. In our inpatient areas, you see we are very close to the national benchmark. If I'm looking at it from a Baldrige perspective, and when I say Baldrige, I mean excellence perspective, I want to see that same upward growth that I see in everything that we do. But we're very close here and really proud of getting here because this is not where we started. We were way behind back in 2017. Next slide, please. Medical practice scores, you see that we're pretty constant here. You see that a national trend is pretty constant there. We have got to put things in place to get those up. And those are our clinics here. Next slide. Ambulatory surgery scores are here. We want to see more consistency. You see an upward and downward trend. So we don't even really have a trend. So we need to get our action plans in place to be a lot more consistent here. And then finally, our emergency department. Usually we're scoring, there's not as big of a gap there either. We want to see more upward movement. And I will talk in the next slides really quickly about just some of the things that Tuscany recommends that we do. You can go to the next slide. And what we have done in the organ. So you saw the employee engagement trends. You see upward from 2022 to 2024, 3.82 to a 3.92. Press-Ganey says a 0.05 movement year over year. We're exceeding that. Well, we're moving upward. Some of the engagement is improving, but it still remains a work in progress. Our nursing staff has shown the most improvement out of the entire organization. Our leadership engagement has declined. That's our managers levels all the way through our executive leadership. That is an area that we focus on a lot this year. We brought in some additional coaching and management training and have really focused on putting groups together to have those voices heard as a result of this survey. Next slide, please. Strengths that we've had is employees find meaning in their work. There's a commitment to safety and quality, and there's more peer-to-peer recognition, which we find through our 40X process. Next slide. Opportunities for improvement, cross-departmental communication, our leadership support and engagement, our workforce stability, and our safety and burnout. Now, we didn't help with the safety and burnout this year with our Cerner implementation. I don't anticipate we'll make a lot of movement there, but with the improvements in our EHR, we should see a lot more positive impact here. Next slide. Recommendations for 2025 and beyond. A lot of these things we already have. We have cross-functional team meetings. We have coaching and training programs. We have stress management programs. We have employee health programs. We will continue to look at these recommendations from Press-Ganey and continue to make improvements. When we talk about our Baldrige, we always do a look back to see what we can do better. So if it's not moving the needle enough, we have to do a double check and say, is this working? What else can we do? And so we continue to do that. Next slide. Physician engagement, again, these are things that we have got to measure first. So until we have that 2025 survey done, these are things that were mentioned. We did not have a good survey response rate. We had probably 200 surveys that went out. This year, we're looking at, do we have the right people that we're asking these questions to? So do we have the right information to get to them to respond? And I think Teresa Mesere in the medical staff office is committed to making sure that we have this good information. Next slide. Commitment to diversity and inclusion, meaning in our work, and resilience have been a few of the key takeaways from the physician survey for the strengths. Next slide. Staff workloads, do we have the right amount of staff? High turnover, EMR, no surprise there. And trust and organizational alignment are things that we really need to work on with our physician based on our 2022 survey. And these are things that we have implemented strategies for. We have physician dinners. We have meetings with the physicians to collaborate with them. So some of these have been worked on already. Next slide. We talked a little bit about some of the things we just did. You can go forward here. Next slide. That's it. So there's a lot of information to uncover in our Press-Ganey If anybody wants to sit down with me and talk through some of this, there's a ton of information, a lot more that we could pull out in almost any area. And I will reiterate what Dr. Katz said about the physician engagement survey. We are moving in the right track. And what we're trying to do also is closely align our employee engagement and our physician engagement surveys right around the same time.
Thank you.
Any other
Ms.
questions?
Thomas. And it's encouraging to see some upward trending.
Yes.
And we look forward to the physician survey in May and trust that Dr. Katz will see that we have an excellent response rate. Any questions for Ms. Thomas? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the quality report given by Dr. Katz earlier.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, please. Thank you. Finance report from Finance Committee. Ms. Smith.
Thank you. We'll first start out with the December report, and Dr. Blackledge, if you'll be so kind as to, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Moran, our controller, please.
Yeah, I'm not Blackledge. How are y'all this evening?
Very good.
Okay, our December financial statements. December, it was an exciting month. Some of the items that really affected the month was the Cerner implementation, influenced the new software. It also came with that, it was our financial software called Multiview. It mainly impacted our financial operations heavily. So one thing about the Cerner is it slowed down our billing, our cash receipts. So for about probably at least 45 days, it'll be slower cash receipts because people getting used to the new system, just the whole process. So our revenue for the month was $23 million. Compared to a year ago, it was $22 million, so that was good. So it was about $700,000 above. It was about $500,000 below the previous month. So our deductions from revenue, I'll just go ahead and go to the net revenue for the month, compared to a year ago was up $800,000, so that was very good. Our total net revenue was $12.6 million compared to a year ago of $11.36. So our biggest opportunities are in expenses. So if you compare our expenses from this year to last year, you will see we're about $3.2 million above a year ago. And a portion of that expenses is related to Cerner, the implementation. They brought in a lot of extra staff to get the system up and running. The contract labor is a big part of that, and that was $1.3 million. Our salaries were $900,000 above the previous year. Physician services, which are just physicians covering our facilities, is $450,000. And then our other expenses was utilities. So it was up $300,000 from a year ago. So in total, our loss for the month was $3.4 million. Now, compared to a year ago, it was $1.3 million at this time. So a pretty good chunk of that expense is related to the Cerner implementation. Now, in the future, we were going to be evaluating the Cerner implementation and possibly capitalizing part of that expense. So we're in the process of accumulating that cost. So that will be coming up in the near future. So we'll let you know in advance how much that is. So any question about the income statement? That was kind of quick, so.
May I ask, you've talked about the December financials. Are you planning to make a report as to the fiscal year to date financials.
Okay, on the year-to-date financial statements, we were down, well, we were up in, compared to the prior year, about $8 million in revenue. But our net revenue was only up $3 million, so part of that was eaten up by the contractuals in that month.
I'd ask you if you'd please, I appreciate the comparisons to the prior year. The thing that stands out to me from the financial report, particularly fiscal year to date, is the performance relative to budget. So if you could address for the board where we stand fiscally related to the budget and where things stand fiscal year to date. Because those numbers, to me, are something that I think require some inquiry and some explanation.
Okay. So if you compare the revenue to budget, we were $13 million under the budget. Our contractuals, though, were only $178,000. The net revenue, was only about $178,000 below budget. So that's good. So that means that we had a good mix and good payers. So the net revenue is down $8 million. And a good chunk of that is because we haven't received the money from the state yet as we had planned on. Because we had planned on receiving about $10 million from the state. So the state is redoing the pool, the CPE money, and so we should be getting an update in March, around middle of March is what we're hoping for. That's what they said in their letter, so we're counting on that. So, but we don't know how much money we'll be getting because they're redoing the formula. And I guess as of a few weeks ago, they had actually stopped sending, they were not going to give us the money, but that was stopped. So the current administration, political, was going to stop that money. So now that has turned around, and we don't know how much it will be and when it will be. So our expenses...
Well, if I could just pause there, and because the $8 million is such a significant part of the revenue that we expect, and this is the second board meeting where I've heard the state is changing the formula, and we're not sure how much money we're getting or whether we're going to get the money. I think it's imperative before our next meeting that as soon as we know what that formula is and what the revenue will be and how that compares to what we have budgeted for that for this year, I'd ask that you communicate to the board that, as well as an explanation as to what exactly is going on at the state level and how it is different than what we expected to happen, because this is a really significant discrepancy in the budget, and I think it's imperative for the board to understand what is happening and how it is different than what we expected to happen in this year's budget.
Yes, we, according to the state and a letter we had gotten several months ago, it should be the middle of March, but I'm not sure you can bank whether that's going to be true or not, but we will definitely let y'all know about that fund.
Is this an annual disbursement, twice a year?
As once a quarter. And this year we've gotten no money. We're supposed to be at 2.5 million a quarter.
It probably is hard to budget that. It may be one of those things that we consider a bonus, but that if we can't really count on it.
Yeah, hindsight, we should have budgeted that as a bonus and not counted on that money.
What was that $10 million based on? Previous year opening?
I don't know that I have the answer for that. I'll have to look that up.
This is a supplemental fund that goes to several of the safety net hospitals, West Tennessee, East Tennessee, and Nashville General. It's been consistent over the years since I've been here. This is the first year. Now, there was a matching to that in the past.
The money that was concerned to matching we got.
Okay, so...
Which was the $20 million.
Okay, so this has been something that's been consistent over the years, and this is the first time we're actually getting this type of uncertainty on it.
Understood. But was that 10 million the consistent number that we've been receiving?
I'm sure it was. I'm sure they budgeted that way. I would think they would have. I don't know that for sure, but off the top of my head, but I can find out for you. Okay. And so if you compare our expenses.
Hold on, just 1 second. Going
sorry.
forward, I think it's really important, because it is such a large number, to make sure that we understand what historically has happened, and then make a proactive choice whether or not we decide to budget 25% of that number, 50% of that number, and then you run maybe different projections based on that. So I do think that we need to kind of stress test what that looks like, because if you don't, we're going to be in the same place again and hoping this works out. And as we all know, hope is not a strategy. So thank you.
And we should be having our legislative delegation impressing the department that makes these decisions to understand the importance to our budget and to make sure that they are consistent in supplying the funds.
Yeah, Mark is checking with the Tennessee Hospital Association.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Moran.
I did speak with the Tennessee Hospital Association in the past, so I've met with their lobbyist, and so I think that that's a critical component, and I mentioned this in a previous meeting, that we need to have a very strong relationship and be in continual contact with that organization, since they're the biggest in the state of Tennessee with regard to healthcare. So I do think that that's an important relationship, and I'd like to see that significantly strengthened, and make sure that we have a person here at NGH, not just relying on just, hopefully, you know, that we're meeting this obligation through lobbying efforts, but a person here directly tied to that organization to make sure that those, that we keep updated, and then have proponents specifically to our hospital.
And we do have our own lobbyist. Isn't that correct?
Serves on the committee of the Tennessee Hospital Association. So we have both. So it's just a matter of us becoming more aggressive with getting that information.
One thing I would suggest, having lived through a change in electronic medical record, it is very stressful. But the culture needs to adjust, and it can't be that 3 months from now it's still the same, 4 months from now it's still the same. It will always be stressful. We do need to encourage. Now, with inpatient, sometimes that's not under your control, but if the inpatient is a reflection of outpatient, then that's what we need to work on.
If there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion to approve the December finance report.
Before you move forward, Mr. Chair, I did want to mention that in our Finance Committee meeting, we did a really deep dive on this. I think it's worth noting that we went through the balance sheet specifically in terms of cash on hand at the bank, and I'll just mention these numbers, which were in December month end, $5.3 million in place. There are some follow-ups, and I want to make sure that we have this for the record, that our goal, as stated by our controller, would be to be in a 90-day cash position, and we are not at that position. He is going to find out what that number would be for us. So we have some specific and actionable requests coming out of finance to make sure that we are staying on top of our cash position, because our unrestricted cash balance at the end of December is $5.4 million, and we need to be at 90 days. So I'd like to make sure that that's a goal.
All right. Thank you. We'll look forward to that report.
All right.
Do I hear a motion for approval of the finance report for December?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Dr. Blackledge, budget.
Hello and good afternoon again, and welcome to board members that I've not spoken to as of yet. Jumping right in on our budget, proposed budget for 2026. So as we look at it, we think about, so I'm 30 days into this now, and we do have a budget. So I will tell you that I'm excited. And I appreciate the team and everyone that has worked with us to get us to where we are today. So how do we get here? For number one, we used data, and we'll talk a little bit about that, to create our budget projections. And from our budget projections, identify the needs that we have within our organization to take care of our patient population. And so putting those numbers together, collaborating with departments, there are some things that we must do. We've got to create what I call a budget calendar. Who's doing what are the tasks, and what are the deadlines, and how do we demonstrate that ownership? So that's number one. Setting communication targets. Those things are important. How are we going to make sure that we are monitoring our performance regularly and communicating about it? Striving for what I call continuous improvement, such as inputting productivity standards by department, so that we're measuring our activity and we have the right expectation in alignment with our output. Documenting any insights, memorializing our conversations as it relates to our financial performance, so that we don't have to retrospectively go back 6 months or 2 months trying to figure out that story and what happened. Along with that is developing what I would call like our monthly variance analysis. Like, what does that look like? We do this often, many of us do this in our own personal household, but expanding that to our line of business, our business today, so that we can produce those variance reports and have the right conversation. And lastly, what I have here is literally meeting monthly or quarterly just to assess the financial performance and update by areas. Go to the next slide. And so what I have here is literally what our planned growth is right now. When we think about planning and managing the hospital's finances, we're looking at about 2% for hospital admissions, and then emergency room visits, 2%, and then an increase on clinic visits of 5% and surgical volume growth of 3%. When we think about budget preparations and reviewing the budget that we initially had in 25, and what does that look like now in terms of our tracking, and then running what do we anticipate for tomorrow. So that kind of led us to our proposed budget. And in considerations for that piece, we looked at supply costs. We have about a 4.4 increase on supply costs. Pharmacy costs. We have other revenues. Two things that I wanted to make sure I bring up, and I brought them up in Finance Committee. There is overall general increase in the cost of healthcare, the goods and services, but more importantly, this upcoming year we have what I am referring to as potential federal cuts, and I refer to them as headwinds. We don't know what they are, but we can feel them like the wind flapping in your face, and so we know that they're present, they're there, but we don't know what they will actually be in terms of the actualization of those. Next thing. So when we think about what our budget looks like, to just share this first because Ken is here. I shouted Ken out earlier. He's with our Metropolitan Department from the budget standpoint. But next Wednesday, we will be going forward to make an ask. And this is an annual activity or meeting where we go and make an ask. And our ask this upcoming year is going to be $66 million. And I'll walk through this. So we have our hospital-generated patient revenues. At the end of the day, from a proposed budget, it's about $73 million. So from 69 projected to 73. If I drop down on our subtotal, we're talking about 98 million, 3 above. And then our Metro subsidy proposed is 66. And then that lends us to 164 when we think about our total net revenue. We can go to the last slide, and you'll see the slide before pretty much again here. So there are 3 things that are important when we look at a budget. It's our revenue. What are we doing? That drives a lot of our income. It's our operational expense. And we well know that hospitals track probably 50% of their expense is on salaries, meaning our labor, our workforce. The third piece of that is the forecasting and that communication that ties with the forecast and what does that look like and are we tracking to it. So you've got three different columns. The first column is where we started this FY 2025 out. So we started with the budget. And I just want to point out the top line number. That number that we started with was 338, or rather I should say 330 or 331 million. Our projection where we are tracking to is 311. That's in the middle. So in looking at that and understanding where we are and the changes that are occurring within our environment, our budgeted proposed number, just top line, patient revenue, was 317. And so when you saw the slide earlier that referenced to 2%, you see that translation over transactionally in the count of total patient revenue. Now focus on this last column, which is that budget column with the bracket around it. If I drop down, our total patient revenue that we anticipate for this upcoming budget year is about $67 million. And when we look at that $67 million is up. We're budgeting, proposed budget for an increase by $1.7 million. Today, if we look in the projection, we're tracking towards $66 million. However, note on the left side all the way, we were budgeted for 61. So that's what we call a pickup in this space. So 1.7 for 67. Our total other revenue is listed there at 96. Now, part of that total other revenue is made up by the city supplement. The city supplement in our proposed budget is $66 million. So I want to make sure I point that out. If I look at a reflective period last year, probably during the same time around February or March, our request to the city was for $64 million. We left the city with $59 million so that we can kind of have that context. So the $64 million that we requested was actually what we needed. So you had 64 and applying a 3% to it, 66. Our total net revenue, patient and other revenue, is 164. And that is a $9 million increase over our projection at this point in time. So when we think about this salaries piece, for salaries, we reduced from our projection because there are some things that we understand and we know about our business. So our projection on salaries, we took it down about $2 million based on what we knew at that point in time. Contract labor, we're projected to run about 15.8. We took that down by 5, so we're running about 10 on that. Pension is something that we have as a line item. It is an expense, not necessarily a benefit to the employee pool that we oversee, but it's a historical legacy item that is paid out of our expenses piece, so paid out of our operations bucket. So a total decrease of $8 million in this line item from our projected. So our projected was 93 on salary and benefits. We have proposed 85.7. If I drop down further, I spoke a little bit earlier about a supply cost and then the pharmacy costs. As everyone in this room knows, pharmacy costs, drugs are pretty expensive. If I drop down to other expense, so we spoke about other expense in our last month board meeting. And other expense included items such as rent, utilities, power, all those things that are really necessary for us to manage our business day over day. But I want you to notice that there's a $5 million difference from our budgeted piece. So 11.8 was the budgeted number, and we're running about 15, and we looked at that in detail. And so we really kept that piece right there. What is taken out of our subsidy, if you see the line item that says Metro indirect expense at almost $6 million, 5.9, that is taken out of our subsidy up front. is for insurance and several other required items for us to operate. And so at the end of the day, our total expenses are in the proposed budget, 161.7. And when we think about that and look at the trajectory that we were on for FY 2025, we have proposed a decrease of $6 million from that number. The last thing I'll share is that our total expenses are about 98.5% of what we anticipate as our total revenue. So that piece is really important. Even when we go back to the left, we're running 100%, 107 on our trajectory. So we have a list of some cost control type initiatives that we're putting into place. But our proposed budget gets us at 98.5, and then our net income at the end of the day is about $300,000. We're safety net, we're hospital, we're not typically a for-profit, so we're not gonna have millions of dollars in our margin piece. So I'll pause there.
Dr. Blackledge, first I'd like to congratulate you for such a short time in this position for
Yes.
getting the budget ready on time, and thank you for explaining it in a way that I think that we all can understand it. Just a couple of comments. The 2% growth projection I think is reasonable. Our outpatient visits to date this year are already up 20%. Our inpatient, outpatient surgery are up, and our gross inpatient and outpatient revenues are somewhat above budget. So I think that that's reasonable. This budget goes to the city next week, I think.
Wednesday.
Right? Wednesday. So it requires our approval first. It may come back to us if the mayor and the council have different ideas about the budget, so we'll see it again. One thing that I would be concerned about is as we find out over the next couple of months about what the state allotment is, we budgeted receipt of $21 million from the state. We may have to revisit after we find out what's going to happen with that. Other comments or questions about the budget?
Also want to congratulate you on doing a lot of work and for, creating something that I think is operationally more sound that we've been working with. I had mentioned in our finance committee I wanted to continue to push my request on getting specifics on contract labor, contract services, and make sure that we understand who we've been paying, how we've been paying them, and kind of their goals, objectives, and the timelines of when their services are going to be over. So I just wanted to state that here as well so the whole committee understands that, since that's a huge part of the money that we're spending, not to mention a significant piece of how we're over budget. The other thing I'd like to see is a cash flow projection through 6/30 as we come into year end to better understand, because the numbers continue to shift month over month, and I'd like to see that where we're going to land by the end of our fiscal year.
Any other comments or questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the budget for 2026.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
If there are no other, all in favor indicate by saying aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Audit update.
All right. Our first audit update item will be Mrs. Katie Ferris. So she presented to us, she in our finance committee meeting. She's a CPA from Crossland who has performed our audit multiple years. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, board, for allowing me to be here. As Christy said, my name is Katie Ferris. I'm an audit director with Crossland PLLC, and we have completed our audit on the hospital's financial statements for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2024. And I will briefly go over our results of the audit. So our audit results in the issuance of 2 auditors' reports. The first is the independent auditor's report on the financial statements, in which we have drafted an unmodified opinion. That is that we believe the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Our second report is a report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters based on an audit of financial statements performed in accordance with government auditing standards. In that report, we discuss that we have identified certain deficiencies, 2 that we have deemed to be material weaknesses, and 2 that we have deemed to be significant deficiencies. So a material weakness is a deficiency or a combination of deficiencies in internal control such that there is a reasonable possibility that the financial statements may be materially misstated and that misstatement may not be prevented or detected and corrected on a timely basis. A significant deficiency is less severe than material weakness, but still important enough to merit attention by those charged with governance, which is this board. Our findings relate to certain specific financial statement areas as well as some overarching systemic deficiencies. Those findings are in the financial statements draft that you have, and they begin on page 45. All 4 of the findings that we have for fiscal year 24 are repeat findings and were included in the fiscal year 23 audit findings as well. Overall, the findings indicate a lack of adequate internal control over financial reporting. Included in this schedule of findings is our recommendations on correcting these deficiencies and the benefit in doing so. Benefit in correcting these deficiencies is obviously that the implementation of sufficient controls allows management to provide accurate monthly financial statements, which in turn allows the board to make appropriate and informed financial and operating decisions for the hospital. If there are any specific questions, I'm happy to address those, but in the interest of your time, I don't have intentions to go into detail unless there are specific questions.
Any comments, questions?
Just 3 things to note since we went through this in detail. Obviously, the internal controls are one of the biggest issues here, which is lacking 2 material weaknesses and 2 significant deficiencies. I made the joke, but we don't really speak in a CPA language normally every day. But I do think it's important to note that we had 15 significant adjustments that made up $10 million. We also had reoccurring findings and weaknesses that have persisted year over year, and that hasn't changed. So I think those are important because the decisions we make as a committee to approve contracts, to approve a budget, if you're worried about monthly reconciliation and you don't actually know that your numbers are right, we're voting on things that could not be accurate. So I think that it's important to make sure that we are looking at these controls. It's important to make sure that we focus on fixing the items which haven't been fixed. So I just want to make sure that we kind of put an exclamation point beside this item. I know that the finance department is committed and is going to be, as stated in the finance meeting regularly with Crossland to make sure these get fixed, and then that way we have a better understanding month to month of our financial position. Thank you so much.
Any other comments? I think for most of us, today is the first day we've seen this information, and we probably need to discuss it further, and Dr. Blackledge, get your review and plans for addressing these findings. And with that, I'd entertain,
we're going to push the approval until next month, so we have the opportunity to have the final draft, the final piece here. Okay. The next item I had with regard to the audit, we have a guest speaker, Lauren Riley, who is with Metro Audit, who is here. and she has asked to come and speak to the board about a recent finding, and I will let her take the podium. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for having me. I'm Lauren Riley. I am the Metropolitan Auditor with the Office of Internal Audit. A little bit about our office, since we haven't presented to the board. We are the Office of Internal Audit. We are charged as an independent office to perform audits and investigations of the Metropolitan Nashville government and its component units. So that includes Nashville General Hospital. An audit that usually comes out of our office is on our audit plan that is approved by our audit committee. And so those are very open. We have engagement with the auditee throughout the process. On the flip side is what we are presenting to you today, which is an investigation of allegations related to Nashville General Hospital. We are charged with investigating allegations related to fraud, waste, and abuse. They are reported to us from any sources anonymously. Any information that comes into our office is confidential because of that. And so we investigate these allegations very quietly. It is all confidential. We only talk to those that we need to know, and we ask to keep it quiet to assist with our investigation. So with that, since April of 2024, we've been receiving allegations related to Nashville General Hospital. We filter through these allegations and see what fall under the purview of our office. And within this report that you have are 5 allegations that we felt there were clear criteria and were specific enough for us to investigate. And so I'm going to go through those at a high level right now. The first allegation related to an executive team member receiving tuition reimbursement after it was paid for with the Nashville General Hospital credit card. We looked at underlying documentation related to this, credit card statements, tuition reimbursement forms, reimbursements to this employee, and we did unsubstantiate this allegation. That means that we found no evidence that there was what we call double dipping, where the employee got reimbursed after it was paid for by Nashville General Hospital. The second allegation within this report is that the valet service that Nashville General Hospital has on contract was overbilling. With this one, we looked at the contract in place with City Valet. We noted the requirements of the contract, 11 hours a day, 5 valet service members at specified rates. These employees of City Valet clocked in and out using the Chronos time system, which is the same system that Nashville General Hospital uses. So we pulled those timesheet records. And then we also looked at the invoices. Now, within this contract, y'all are billed a month ahead. And then there is a reconciliation that's supposed to happen monthly between what is actually provided versus what was billed. What we found was that there was a significant difference between what was charged to Nashville General Hospital and what was actually on the time records in place. There was over 7,000 hours difference and about $230,000 in payments that were made that were overbilled. So because of that, we have substantiated this allegation. Our third allegation related to hospital contracts not going before the board appropriately under the direction of Dr. Webb. We investigated this by pulling the very specific list of contracts that we were given. With allegations, we only look at what we are told in the allegation. So we looked at these specific contracts. We looked at board minutes. We looked at the requirements of the contracting policy to see if they were supposed to go before the board. And we also looked at how much money had been paid. With this, we found that 6 clinical contracts and 16 non-clinical contracts did not come before the board. Additionally, this amounts to about $4.6 million in payments that have been made to those contractors. We substantiated the part that there were contracts that did not go to the board appropriately. We could not determine it, and we found no evidence that this was under the direction of Dr. Webb. So that part we could not determine. We could not determine the cause of it either because there were mixed information, but we couldn't find anything that confirmed anything. The next allegation related to Dr. Kevin Billups utilizing Nashville General Hospital facilities, equipment, supplies, and services at no cost without a contract in place. For this one, we looked at Dr. Billups profile online, tried to call and schedule an appointment with him, and other methods, as well as we looked at the Meharry PSA, which we were pointed to as what he would fall under. We asked for records of him being reimbursed Meharry being reimbursed under the PSA for his services to indigent patients or Nashville General Hospital patients, and we did not find any evidence of this. So because of that, we do not think, and also based on the agreement, we do not think that he falls under that agreement. Additionally, there was no contract in place with him. Because of those items, we did substantiate this allegation. Our last allegation was a little more complex. This allegation was that certain media requests or public records requests that happened to be from the media, there were 3 of them, requesting contracts, that those contracts that were sent to the media were falsified before being sent to the media. To look at this, we pulled documentation, internal documentation, emails, contracts from contracts management, as well as looked at the packets and information that the media received related to these requests. What we found are a few things. We found that in multiple instances, the media did not receive all of the contracts that were on file for contracts management. The media received contracts that were not on file at contracts management. There were 5 instances where the before contracts were missing the vendor signatures. However, when they were provided to the media, they had vendor signatures, and these were sent well after the execution of these contracts. So because of these different items, we did substantiate that these contracts were falsified before they were sent to the media. Those are the allegations in the report. I do want to note that we are very thankful that everybody at Nashville General Hospital was very cooperative with our investigation and forthcoming, and that makes our investigations a lot easier, and we very much appreciate that. I can answer a few limited questions with our office. All information up to the final report is confidential, but I'm happy to take questions that I can answer related to this report.
That was using the facilities, where were those services being billed from?
When you say where were they being billed from, our understanding is he was billing on his own.
Okay.
And with respect to that physician, to the extent you can answer, does there seem to be a reason why the hospital would make its facilities available to this physician for free? What would cause that circumstance to happen?
We did not find any evidence of why the agreement or that he was utilizing the facilities without any payments.
Regarding the last allegation, did you discover who falsified the documents?
We have the list of contracts in Appendix B within our investigation report. There's a list of what contracts had signatures after the fact. So there were 5 of them. 4 of them, I believe, were community health marketing, and then 1 was City Ballet.
Other questions? Any comments? Thank you very much for your report. And again, this is all new to us today, so we'll expect to deal with this in the future.
May I add one more thing? There are recommendations within this report. We will expect these to be implemented by the hospital, and we will follow up with them to make sure that these are implemented.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I know that we've just been provided a copy of this report this morning, and I'm assuming I, like other board members, are still digesting and coming to terms with it. They're very serious findings that have been made. In particular, 2 of the recommendations or 2 of the audit findings relate to contracts that either the board should have been aware of or was not aware of, or which were somehow manipulated in response to a public records request. Those are really troubling features, and I guess my first reaction that I think the board ought to keep in mind is to really get to the bottom of those agreements. We need to understand agreements that should have been presented to us, that were not presented to us, who they are involved with, what is the nature of those contracts, what are the terms of those contracts, because it is troubling to me that we have seen a budget report that shows that our contractual expenses are more than we had budgeted for, and that a number of millions of dollars in contracts that should have been presented to the board were not presented to the board. So in my mind, that an immediate sort of to-do item is to really study those contracts and understand what they are, what they involve, because they should have been presented to us before.
I think it's important to know whether those are services that we would have approved.
Yes. I mean, it sounds like the purpose of the internal audit was substantiate the actual allegations. But as I read some of the description of the agreements, I have a lot of questions. In particular, the lease agreement for the Bordeaux facility refers to terms, tenant improvement terms, obligations of the hospital to fund what appear to be $1 million worth of improvements to property that we do not own but that we lease, that at least as a preliminary matter I would have a lot of questions about. So yes, Dr. Miller, I think there are already facts contained within the audit report that caused me to think that the board would be well served to very quickly understand what the terms of those agreements are, and are those things that we would have approved had we been provided notice of them.
My comment is that a portion of this is also related to the physician agreement. I mean, it seems as if that was clear or rectified or whatever, then it would provide us a better picture of understanding the situation and also moving forward and basically getting bills paid, because it seems like there are some outstanding bills.
Dr. Webb.
I think it would be helpful if you all were to get the additional information on this before you prosecute this administration in public. I think the issue with Dr. Billups was reviewed once before, so it's the second time it's been audited. Dr. Billups is a Meharry teaching faculty member. He only utilized some space, a very small office space, to see patients that they billed for. So there's really not much there to find. So I think you should take a closer look at these allegations. And I'm questioning why this would even be presented in a public setting with these types and level of accusations.
Well, I think all these things need to be addressed. Some of the contracts on the top of this list, frankly, are with companies that I've heard about for the first time today. And there are a lot of questions to be answered. And I would ask that the executive team report to us specifically on these at the next meeting, and perhaps Dr. Webb, in your time, you could report to us in a shorter term on each of these. Thank you. Okay, if there's no further discussion, we'll move on to the CEO Performance Review Committee report.
Okay, thank you. Our committee met on the 25th, so Tuesday. Feels like a lifetime ago at this point. But we had been tasked with finalizing the fiscal year 2025 annual performance assessment, and have done so we had modified some of the goals and objectives as well as the measurement criteria from the prior fiscal year 24 version. Excuse me. Our committee had a deep dive on each of these entities, weighed in, and then ultimately unanimously approved for this to come to this board and be presented as the final version for the performance evaluation form for for fiscal year 2025.
Are there any questions of the members having reviewed these proposed criteria?
You need a motion?
I think the recommendation of the committee is in motion. We would entertain a second to the motion.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Any abstentions? Thank you. And next, the CEO contract renewal discussion.
Okay, I have some comments to make, but all of this with the understanding that Dr. Webb decided to go ahead and resign. I'm sorry. Decided not to pursue his contract. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Thank you for the correction. So, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the CEO Evaluations and Contract Committee. First, I would like to start off by saying that our committee, as well as our full board, are personally committed to Nashville General Hospital, the employees that work diligently every day, and the variety of patients that these wonderful people here serve. Our board members are not paid for their work. We are impassioned professionals who share a deep love of community, responsibility, and are committed to the success of our mission here. We are in a very crucial time for Nashville and our city. This hospital has served many in this room and many more listening as well, even into multiple generations. I want to thank Dr. Webb personally for his service to our community, the hospital, and the patients it serves. Our committee has been tasked to review pertinent materials available and help recommend the direction our hospital would take over the next several years. We do not take our work lightly. We, too, are all Davidson County citizens and taxpayers, just like each of you. Our task as an appointed board member is to be engaged and curious and to be well-read on things that affect Nashville General Hospital. Our committee has taken this fiduciary duty seriously and feels we have completed our due diligence required in order to make a decision on Dr. Webb's contract. As you may have heard in the committee meeting on Tuesday, the 25th, it was decided with a 3-person vote with 1 abstaining to recommend to the full board that we do not renew Dr. Webb's contract ending in June 30th, 2025. This outcome is based on what we view as a strategic decision to move Nashville General Hospital forward. We are deeply committed to NGH's success and feel that the ability to move forward would best be aided by someone who has a strong relationship with city officials, Meharry, who remains our primary provider of physicians, as well as other medical partners, and the board itself. Due to the significantly strained relationships with these 3 stakeholders, we do not believe that Dr. Webb is capable of providing the leadership needed to bond together all these separate entities. Unfortunately, this has been evidenced widely in the media and has shown many deep and long-held fractures in these necessary relationships. Our focus should be on the mission and not on one man. Additionally, there are items which have been detailed this afternoon which have significant drag on the performance of Dr. Webb's leadership style. For instance, there are serious issues with physician satisfaction and engagement, with low ratings over the last 2 available surveys. Unfortunately, there were no surveys completed the last 2 years for 2023 and 2024. External auditors have identified material weaknesses and significant deficiencies in internal controls the last 2 years in our audits, which have not been properly addressed. Monthly reconciliations are not happening and thus cause our financials to be questionable and our cash flow in a tenuous state. The city of Nashville had to delay the filing of their audit due mainly to Nashville General Hospital delays. Our own employees have not felt good about recommending the hospital to the Friends, as evidenced by Press Ganey surveys and personal stories. Some have felt intimidated and fear retaliation if they raise their hand if they are not comfortable with a decision made, as evidenced by many reaching out to individuals on this board. We were all copied on emails, as well as individuals specifically on the board. We have issues with nepotism and favoritism within several of our executive leadership team members, with having children and close relatives working here or have worked here, as well as having some employees with criminal records. Our accounts payable remain at 78 days plus, with some vendors refusing to do business with NGH and some who have not been paid for almost a year. Our own city has threatened to take over our financial department to make sure repayments are happening. Metro auditors have identified and substantiated 4 separate issues of non-disclosure and lack of contracts, overbilling, and falsification of documents. At the end of the day, we need a refresh at Nashville General Hospital. We need leadership at the top who leans into these issues, holds people accountable, creates a culture of collaboration, professionalism, support, and transparency. Our mission is unbelievably sound. Our people here care. We just need a change at the top. I will now ask my fellow committee members to comment on their thoughts as well. Mr. Esquivel, Dr. Fagans, Mr. Lesser, would you each have anything to add? Thank you.
This committee recommendation constitutes a motion to not renew Dr. Webb's contract. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. And I'll open the floor to discussion of the issue.
One thing I would like to reemphasize what Christy Smith said is this board is definitely committed to the hospital and to the population that it serves. That is foremost what we are committed to. We are also committed to our relationship with Meharry, and that we need to work on that relationship and make Meharry a bigger part of this operation. And in that light, I want to address some of the things in the media and even in the government that we need some representation of Meharry on this board. We cannot build on that relationship unless we have a direct line of communication with Meharry Medical College. And I just want to stress my opinion that that's very important to this board.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Any other comments or discussion? If not, yes.
Thank you. I think accountability is always important, and I would echo too. That I think that the support for the hospital is an important aspect of what we do as a board. We've talked about a lot of things. I guess the thing that disappoints me the most, and the thing that makes me sometimes skeptical, is things like leaks to the press. Who leaks to a company that they work for that they're proud of? Who leaks to the press to address those issues? That does much of nothing other than innuendo. Which, if I can be frank, that playbook is getting old. And I've been in this community for quite a bit of time. I went to TSU for undergrad, and that doesn't help the brand of the hospital. Those types of discussions, in my opinion. It doesn't help to bring anything definitive. It doesn't bring any solutions to the table. That's all I have to say. I just think that bothers me. If we can't have this as a public forum, and if we can't have those types of discussions in this forum, then it seems to undermine the overall mission of the hospital and what we're trying to do when people do those things. And specifically, again, leaking to the press. It starts to look coordinated. And that is the what's been expressed to me. I know you guys have had people that have spoken to you, but I've had people in the community, the physicians that work here, who give maybe a different story. And that story is not being told, if you notice, in the press. It seems to be very one-sided, as though we're kind of moving in for an end result. And I think if that's the case, and Ms. Smith, I appreciate, presenting evidence and things that we can kind of sink our teeth into, things that have some sort of, that we can look at objectively. Again, I disagree, that if we truly are a board that is for the community and for the best of the patients and for the medical students at Meharry Medical Center, I don't think that kind of activity should occur. That's just my opinion. I feel strongly about that.
Thank you, Dr.
Chairman.
Fisher. Yes, sir.
May I?
Yes.
First, I want to thank my colleagues on the committee for their dedication to a fair assessment of the situation. Each member looked at the issues in a most thoughtful way, mindful and considering the impact of our deliberations on the CEO, the staff, and most important, the people served by Nashville General Hospital. I'll reference some areas of review and concern, not in any particular order. Employee and physician surveys, modest at best, but not overall outstanding results, which included internal communication. I too have received letters and calls from employees regarding concerns of nepotism and hints of retaliation. A series of financial concerns, including most recently from the city auditor, additional substantiated issues. Lack of progress on the PSA, which reflects the larger issue of the relationship with our partner, Meharry Medical College. While I'm not convinced the poor relations are entirely the fault of our CEO, he certainly carries a major responsibility. The relationship is key to any forward movement on improvements to our current facility or chances of locating to a new hospital site. In 2021, the board approved NGH leadership to work with the mayor and council to work on plans for the hospital. By May of 2023, Mayor Cooper wrote in a letter to the board, quote, "My office and other parts of Metro are often unable to receive updates, performance metrics, and basic communication and transparency from NGH leadership. Since that time, what progress has been made? It would appear not very much, and that would include the lack of engagement of the board by the CEO in this effort. Does that lack of progress accrue in part to the management of our highly paid political consultant, Jerry Maynard, whose comments most recently quoted in the Nashville Banner are quite unusual, and I'm going to quote them because I think they're very relevant, and I take them personally. He is quoted as saying, "We have seen over the last 2 years people who have no connection to the community, no connection to General Hospital, no connection to the patients, don't know nothing about the hospital, don't know nothing about Meharry, had to get a GPS system to find North Nashville being appointed to the board." I'm one of those appointees, and I'm incensed at the direct criticism of the board. That's a management issue. I spent 20 years as an executive of Georgia Power Company, the major supplier of electricity in Georgia, whose motto for over 100 years is a citizen wherever we serve. But I now and have been a citizen of Nashville. I was married here in Nashville to a Nashvillian 35 years ago, whose father was the longtime CEO of Nashville Public Broadcasting. I know something about Nashville, our political consultant criticizing the hand that feeds him. That's a management issue. As many of you know, I often look at policy issues through the lens of economic development. Nashville has a national and global reputation for healthcare, yet NGH's relationship with other hospitals and sector leaders should be so much better. That reputation can only be enhanced by a strong public hospital that serves the needs of Nashville citizens with support from all the leadership components of the city beyond the support that we receive from City Hall. including the various nonprofits and leaders of the business community. I have not observed a significant collaboration of that kind today. We're a public hospital serving the people of Nashville, and I want to give the appropriate kudos to Dr. Webb for his positive initiatives in his 10 years as CEO, and there are many. Given the changing dynamics of healthcare delivery in a dramatically growing community, given the financial and accounting issues that have been referenced, given the lack of progress in work with our partners at Meharry, City Hall, and others, as we review these issues and look at the future, concluded that now is the time for a reset. A time not to look in the rearview mirror, but to clean up the issues, get back on track with our partners, and add new partners to assist this board and the staff of this hospital to sort out the very best path forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion on the floor. If there are no further comments, I'd like to call for a vote. Dr. Fagans.
Yeah, as a former Meharian, which I consider myself, I will always be a Meharian. Meharry has made me the doctor that I am today. And as a resident of Nashville General Hospital, after I graduated from medical school, I can say that I love both institutions. Moving forward, I hope that with the new leadership, whoever that may be, that comes after Dr. Webb, that we can forge ahead with a PSA for between the two institutions, between Nashville General Hospital and Meharry, and strengthen the relationship between both institutions for the betterment of the community it serves and for the continued education of both the Meharry students and the residents. I wish Dr. Webb the best. I think he did the best that he could with what he had. And I just hope that as a board that we can come together and do what's best for the hospital in the long run.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, the motion on the floor to not renew Dr. Webb's contract at the end of this fiscal year. Ask all those in favor to indicate by raising your hand. All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you. The motion passes. Next, new business contracts.
May I raise an issue, if it is appropriate, to bring a motion in light of the Dr. Webb's letter, February 26th, that we received yesterday? I think it appropriate for us to also acknowledge that letter. And I would move, Mr. Chair, that we accept the terms as set forth in Dr. Webb's letter of February 26th, including his departure date effective March 14, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Escobar. I hear a second to that motion.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, first contract, Dr. Elders. Or actually, would Ms. Smith, would you like to summarize the contracts and the actions of the Finance Committee?
Sure. Thank you. So let me pull this up for you. Hold on just one second. The first contract is the Carl Stortz contract. Ms. Elders brought this to us. It is a refresh on a capital lease on equipment that we already have. So that would indicate both the replacement of some new equipment as well as maintenance for these rollover items. The monthly lease payment being about $9,000, that would increase to a bit more than $11,000. It is an extension of the current agreement, but also replaces this equipment. Contract cost of $670,828.27. No other bids were asked. So With that, our Finance Committee recommended full approval unanimously to this board.
What is the nature of the equipment?
This is endoscopy equipment for the operating room and endoscopy suite. Here, a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you, that passes.
Next is, I'm sorry, did you
Go
want me to
ahead.
go ahead? CMS imaging. So this was brought to us by Dr. Brown. It is a service agreement for the cath lab, 5-year lifespan. He mentioned that the normal useful life of this equipment is 7 years. It is $96,660 annually for a total agreement cost of $483,300. And there were no bids, as it was a replacement as well for the cath lab. Our Finance Committee unanimously approved this and moves it to the full board for consideration.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you.
Was compliance line. It's another service agreement brought to us by Christy Lewis and Susanna Sells. It is a vendor who conducts sanction checks or exclusion checks on behalf of the hospital. It is a 3-year initial contract with 2-year renewal, ending on December 18, 2029. It would be a new agreement with a total contract cost of $25,964.93. This did go out to bid to 3 other companies, and they recommend this company as the vendor of choice. Our Finance Committee had this discussion unanimously, agreed to move this to the full board as well.
Do I hear a second? For approval of this contract?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next is board's chair report. Considering the hour, I'll limit my comments, but I'd like to express appreciation to the board members and staff and employees and the community that contributed to this difficult process. I'd like to thank Dr. Webb for 10 years of service and distinguishing this hospital in many ways, and for his letter that he sent us last night that somewhat made this process a little bit smoother. We have some work to do in the future. We look forward to it. And turn it over to Dr. Webb if you have any comments.
Well, I certainly do want to express my appreciation for the 10 years that I've been here. I think we've done some extraordinary work with the team that's been here. I am disturbed by the way the hospital has been demonized in the media. I'm equally disturbed by the way that my decision not to seek a new contract has been portrayed as a form of guilt of some egregious activities, which has not taken place. I have, over the last 10 years, had the honor of serving as CEO of this hospital, and the Hospital Authority Board decided that it wants to go in a different direction for leadership. I am not resigning. I am simply not seeking another term of the contract. It is a mutual decision, obviously, and that's not unusual to happen. As an early departure has been agreed upon to clear the pathway for the next leader that will come in. That too is not abnormal. The work that has been done by the Nashville General Hospital team of professionals should be celebrated and certainly not tarnished by any form of negative press. I would hope that they would continue to be celebrated for the work that they've done, and that this not be a black mark on anything. And there are things that need to be looked into, obviously, and investigated. But I think any organization that you look at is going to have some issues somewhere within it that would probably warrant some corrections. So I would ask that the board and the community not judge harshly the things that have been done in the normal operations of a hospital as you go through this process. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda is a closed strategic session, and this requires a motion, a second, and a vote. I would entertain a motion to go into that session.
Moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Yes. Yes. Okay. This is pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated 6811-238. This requires a roll call vote to approve this session.
Esquivel?
Aye.
Do you approve? Fagans? Fisher has left. Lesser? Martin?
Aye.
Miller? Nettles? Smith?
Okay, we will retire. Yes, sir.
One other point, last bullet point. Please explain the business
Yes, this is for marketing strategy, strategic plans. And this session will be limited to members of the board, Dr. Webb, and the board's attorneys. And if anybody wants to stay in this room until we return, you may, but the only order of business when we return will be to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.